Let's go out to Portland, Oregon, and talk to Jose. What's up, Jose?
How you doing?
I'm good. ¿Cómo estás?
Bien, bien. Thank you for taking my call.
You betcha, man. How can I help, brother?
Yeah, so my question is,
You're good, man. Take a minute.
how do I stop grieving somebody that's alive?
Oh, man, that's a heavy one. Tell me about it.
So basically it's my dad. He was deported back when I was 14. So about 14 years ago, and
jeez, man.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of things happen, from that point on, and I'm 29 now, and basically I have decided that it's time to work on my depression. So, he's in Mexico, and I talk to him, weekly, but it's been like this for so many years that our conversations are like a minute long, and I only see him maybe once a year, if that. So he's part of my life, but at the same time he's not, because he's not in my life anymore,
Yeah.
And so
does he want to be? Does he like the phone calls, or are they getting awkward?
they're just, it's just so short. It's like, hey, how you doing? Good.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Going to work. Okay, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so I just feel like, he's alive, and I can see him, once a year. And I know some people don't even get that, so I'm grateful for that.
No. Hey, hold on. Don't compare your grief to somebody else. Here's why. That 14-year-old little boy needed his dad, and he got ripped out. And that 15-year-old boy, and that 18-year-old boy, and that 25-year-old boy, and I'm telling you, I'm in my 40s, and I still need my old man. Okay? There's no apologizing for that, brother. That's your dad. And when you say I need to work on my depression, I get the sentiment, but I want you to be careful about that language, because that suggests like I need to work on my engine of my car because my car's broken. Your depression, brother, comes naturally because your father got taken from your home when you were 14 years old. And so your body shut the system down so that the thing would keep operating. Right? It's like when your car overheats, it will turn itself off sometimes.
Right.
And so you're not broken, man. Your body's been trying to survive without the Padre for a long time. Are you a dad now?
Yeah.
How old is your kids?
They're 4 and 3.
Okay. The reason I asked that is I was expecting you'd have young kids. Here's why. If you're like me, dude, when you had kid number 1, it was kind of a whirlwind. You had kid number 2, you start to feel your heart expand in a way that you didn't know was possible. And you realize the capacity for love that you didn't know was humanly capable, especially within your knuckleheaded chest, right? And then you start to think, oh, my dad felt that too. And then there's this, it's like when you get older, you feel this different compassion for your parents because you realize they were hurting too. And they wanted to do it right, and they messed up too. And they didn't know what day it was either. And the whole thing just gets messier and messier and bigger. This is called wisdom, and it's called forgiveness, and it's called just expansion. You're just going through a natural moment in your life. And if your dad was with you, it's when you start being like, all right, he just runs his mouth about politics. That's fine, but we're going to go get tacos anyway. He just runs his mouth about whatever. I'm going to take him out to dinner anyway. Because you have a different level of compassion. Challenge you have is you can't see him. When you say you get to see him once a year, do you go home to Mexico to see him?
Right, yeah.
How are those trips?
They're quick, short. It's expensive. I can only take one of the kids, so it's just, it's like it's a lot to go see him. Basically, like I have to go through a lot to get down there, so it's not like it's just quick and short. It's like over the weekend or maybe 3 days, and then I'm back home. So it's difficult basically, and then I took my daughter because she's 2 years old and he hadn't even seen her, and she doesn't know him, so she didn't want to be around him.
Sure.
She didn't want to, and
yeah, he's just some old strange man.
right,
Yeah.
right. And so it's just I don't know. It's just and like when I try to talk about the kids, I feel like he just I feel like he shuts down. So.
And I'll tell you this, brother, he has to. It doesn't surprise me at all. I say that he doesn't have to. That's not fair. He doesn't have to. But he lost his son 14 years ago. Right? And it doesn't compute that he would open up his heart again for the chance to get hurt that bad again. It also isn't an excuse, right? Like he's granddad. I mean, that's his job, is to open up his heart humongous and let these little grandkids swan dive into it. But I get that it's hard, right? I get that. It's not an excuse, but it's a context, right? So here's I can give you a couple of nuts and bolts, man, but I think there's a 30,000 foot view of this that we need to take. But first, I think you don't grieve your dad. I think you grieve the picture of what you wanted it to be. Because your dad's still there. It's awkward. It's weird. Those phone calls are kind of perfunctory. And in a weird way, he doesn't know you like he could have, because he hasn't seen you for 50. He hasn't like hung out with you and been like had a paternal role in your life for 15 years, right? So I get there's some awkwardness there. So what we're grieving is not dad. Dad's there. We're grieving this picture that fathers and sons are supposed to be able to hang out together and have dinner together and bicker and complain with one another and challenge each other to arm wrestling matches and debate politics and roll their eyes at, you're supposed to be able to do that. That's what I'm grieving. That I lost all that. All that got ripped away. And then when I grieve that, then I can be about, okay, what's given the reality that I live in, I'm going to choose to live in reality. What can I make of this season? And that looks like this. And what I'm going to tell you is going to sound silly, but I've seen it work over and over, and it's pretty magical. If you kept a small little log, keep it on your phone, and your notes app on your phone. But if you kept just a series of questions that when your kid does a thing, like, why do you do that? Or what do you think about this? Or you see something about Mexico on the news and you're like, I wonder what, if you kept a list of that, and every time you talk to your dad, there was some intention to that phone call, not just like we're punching our card, like phone call made, phone call answered, goodbye. Like, instead of that, but it was like, Dad, my kid keeps doing X. Do you have any wisdom for me? Dad struggles so much with feeling like, why don't people like me? And for you to reach out and say, hey, what do you think about this? I don't know a dad in the world that doesn't love giving wisdom. They often give it when it's not even asked for. But if a kid comes and asks dad, hey, what do you think? God, dude, that's just like a gift. And so do you need that wisdom? Probably not. Probably not. But man, you'll give, you're putting oil in the engine of that relationship. You're giving him something to think about between calls. He may go look up something. He may go have some conversations at home. And this is not going to be the the relationship that you wanted, the one where you hug him and you'll have dinner together once a week. But it is going to be a different version of what you have now. And maybe down the road you say, hey, can you do FaceTime with me? I want to see your face. And it might be completely new. Maybe I've done that. Maybe you haven't. But it's you being vulnerable. And he might say, no, it's too hard for him. Okay.
So I actually have been thinking about asking him, just questions like that. But And I don't know. I guess I just hold back just because, and I feel like he's just going to shut down if
He might.
it gets too personal.
He might. But also this. If you reach out and say, hey, 14 years ago, you got ripped from my life. I miss you. And now I've got my own kids and I need you. And I know it's hard. And maybe you write this in a letter and send it to him. But I'm entering into a season where I need my dad. I've needed my dad for 14 years, but I really need him now. I need a partner in this. And we can't see each other all the time. I don't have the money to come down all the time, whatever. But can I ask you some questions on the phone? Can we talk? Can we connect in that way? Will you FaceTime with me once every 2 weeks? And dude, dads are awkward on the phone. I'm the worst. I'm awkward on the phone. My kids don't like talking to me on the phone. They're just like, all right, dad. Like, because it just is. I wish I could be adventurous on the phone, but I'm not. So I wouldn't expect this to just feel like a warm hug because it's not. It's a cheap substitute, but at least it's a substitute. And then I think long-term, the 30,000-foot view I was talking about is you have to ask yourself over time, how do I reverse engineer the life I want versus the one I'm living? What does that mean? Is Portland, Oregon the place for us long-term? Or can I move south and be closer to the border, closer to home? Is that possible? Is there another job I could take? Is there a different training I could get over time so that I can potentially reconnect our families? You might not want to do that. I packed up and moved 1,000 miles away from my family, right? So that doesn't, not out of anger or anything, but it isn't always practical. That isn't always the solution for everything. But at least it's you asking the broader question, how valuable is this relationship to me? What do I need to do to bring it closer, given the reality that we're in? He's not allowed back in the States. And on that way. But you begin to take some ownership of it. And then when you decide, no, Portland, Oregon is a place for my family. It's where we've got roots. It's where my wife is from. It's where my job is, all that. This is where we are. Then you're owning reality. You're choosing to be where you are. And there's some peace to that. It still hurts, but there's some peace to that. It doesn't feel like you are being jerked around by the government that took your dad away, by the politicians over here, by the economics over here. I make some choices. I'm choosing to live here. I'm choosing that. And so part of this is about gaining ownership back. That's hard to do, man. All that to say, I don't know that you grieve your dad here. I think you grieve the situation. I think you grieve the picture of what should have been. A granddad with his 2 little grandkids just sitting on the front porch in a rocking chair, being fat, being loud, complaining about stuff. And he's not. He's thousands of miles away. That hurts, man. And then I think you reach out, you write that letter to dad and say, it's been 14 years and I need you. Are you in? That's a scary letter to write, brother. But I think he's worth it. I think you're worth it. And I think your kids having a granddad is worth it too. Thank you for the call, my man.